Bill, you talked a little bit about sort of Nordic Combined having this like pretty traditional way of doing things, and you guys were. You said you weren't afraid to take a chance.
Yeah.
Can you talk about sort of like some non-conventional ways that you guys said, we're going to go about this in a different way than everybody else? And obviously had huge payoffs. Could you just share like what you guys did that was cool?
Sure, if I step on somebody's toes here. So like Nordic Combined is a really historical sport, you know, and it's like cross country and ski jumping as well. When you go to Europe, the teams train like the teams train, you know, like there's increasing amounts of sports science and other things involved. But even at the national team, World Cup level, there's a tendency to like, well, we do this technique session because that's what my coach did with me, and that's what, you know, his coach did with him. We do these intervals because, you know, that worked good enough back then. Whereas like when we started involving the sports science of other programs, we started to realize that, first of all, we looked at our sport from a different perspective. Nordic Combined skiers look to be like the average best at jumping in cross country. And cross country is something that we know if I ski more, if I spend more time roller skiing or skiing on snow and do the right work, I will get faster. There's a direct proportional correlation between more training and better skiing. Jumping is not like that. It's definitely more of a feel sport. So it's taking the right jumps, not the most jumps. And so we started to redesign how we were going to spend our time as a Nordic Combined skier. And we realized that we could be as good as any cross-country skier, or as good a cross-country skier as we could be by training more for cross-country. And we knew that in order to be better at jumping, we needed to focus on the right jumps. And so, long story short, we've alleviated a fair amount of our weight room time, but we figured out what we get the most benefit for both sports out of, and we do that. So instead of like 5 days a week, we do 3 days a week. When we're at altitude, we train slower, easier, longer. And then when we come to sea level, we don't do anything but speed, really. Like this week, for 10 days, I've done nothing but intervals and time trials. And that's a way to take, you know, basically when you live at altitude, you increase your blood volume. It increases the amount of oxygen you can carry, but the altitude limits the amount of work you can do. You come down, you can do more work, especially with the increased blood volume, so we take advantage of that when we go down. So there's just all these little things that we've tweaked with our training program that make our time more efficient.
One bit of advice you gave I thought was great, but it seemed like it was also part of, you know, what moved you forward, was being able to take a bad performance, understand what went wrong, and then get rid of it.
Yeah, it's a skill.
That's what my question is, how did you develop that? Was it a realization you came to, or was it something that you worked at?
Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room knows an athlete who can, like, I'm not the type of person to quit a race, but everybody knows somebody who can, like, go out one day, quit a race, and go out the next day and have the best race ever. I wouldn't encourage that behavior. I think finishing what you start is a good thing, no matter how bad it's going. But I did take a little lesson from some athletes that I saw doing that and realized that, like, I was going home from a bad race, and I was convincing myself I was a bad skier and a bad person, and it affected my next day's performance. And then I watched these other guys that were able to have a bad day or quit a day and come out the next day and like ski like nothing had ever happened. And I realized that it wasn't like a mistake on their part. That's a skill. And so that's something I think that I've developed while watching other athletes. And it's a little hard to be able to put those races behind you sometimes, but it's another thing that once you get trust in having a little bit of a selective memory, it can be like a real skill set to have in your race bag.
So like the last 100 meters of the race, like for the Olympics, like what was going through your head?
Johnny and I just sort of talked about one of us winning it, and I have this habit of never looking back once I attack, I never look back when I'm in shape, and I kind of keep myself motivated for those last like 500 meters, 400 meters, 300 meters by not looking back and just believing somebody's right there. So I was like fully expecting somebody to come by me right to the finish line. So I didn't really enjoy it until.
How hurtful is that? How deeply are you digging in?
I mean, there's no pain when you're having that moment, you know.
Yeah. Right. That's interesting. That's really the right comment. There's no that exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. None that I can remember.
Just the timing of that question, you know, it's too bad we don't have the footage to see, but when you were climbing the hill as the group of three, like in your mind at that moment, did you know that you had another gear? Or did you kind of have to will yourself?
Yeah,
or
and
just
was
like, I'm ready to go. Like,
that was sort of the plan that Johnny and I had going into it, was like, we're going to try to get rid of him right away, therefore giving Todd behind us a chance to maybe pick him up and get the third medal. But if things go, you know, wrong and he's with us all the way, we have to make sure one of us wins. We knew we were both stronger than him over the long run. So even if we couldn't ski away from him during the race, we knew we could ski away from him from a far enough distance out. But if it came down to like an all-out 100, 200 meter sprint, then he might beat us. So the plan was to like, okay, if we don't get rid of him by 9K, we're gonna sit up, we're gonna recover for a couple minutes, and then we're just gonna put the hammer down for the last 500 meters.
How old are you?
Old enough to have been in the 98 Olympics. I'm 30.
You don't look 30.
That's the beauty of this
Bill,
job.
Bill was the winner of the Masters category.
I was the winner
Climbing
of the Masters category. I was also 12th place. It was like the Nordic combined podium. Me, Todd, and Clover.
How did you decide to make your move right there, like the last,
At the
it was like
Olympics?
800 meters? Yeah. What was
It
that?
was like kind
cue?
of like, it was the necessity of the situation. It was like, I don't want this to come down to a sprint. The best thing I can do for myself or Johnny is to go at that point where the hill kind of broke and got steeper again, and therefore making like the workload pretty hard for like an extended amount of time.
Like before the race, are you like getting really pumped or are you like relaxed?
I like to be like relaxed, pumped, like not like really nervous, antsy. Like we're gonna have a good day, talking, laughing. Yeah, not wrapped too tight.
When you do a high volume week, what sort of hours are you doing? Like you're talking about at altitude.
Yeah, it's because you're getting ready for a peak. It has to be a little bit dependent on how much you've actually been training and how you're feeling. Because you're basically just coming back up to altitude to try to increase blood volume and capillarization through long distance training and recovery at altitude. So as little as 20 hours and no more than probably 26. It's also mid-season, so you probably haven't been doing that much volume. It's not as big as like big volume week in May, like a big base volume week. It's sort of like a retouch, you know, for 10 days, maybe average of 3 hours a day or something.
At what point in the race did you think like you might actually win?
I think I entered the race knowing that I could. I think that was important, is to, like I said, like believe that you can. Not necessarily focus. You don't want to for me, I don't want to focus on winning as so much as the process of winning. Keeps you kind of more focused on your surroundings, what everybody else is doing. But I think for the most part, in order to win, you have to believe that you can.
How important do you think the relationship you have with your teammates has been in reaching that, only the level that you're at, but collectively the group together? And do you think that you could have achieved that without that group of teammates, or achieve that same level?
Yeah, I think if anybody here doesn't know, I'm just gonna give you a brief, real quick history of Nordic Combined, and that is, until these Olympics, no Nordic Combined skier from the U.S. in 86 years of Winter Olympics has ever won a medal. And up until 2003, no Nordic Combined skier had ever won a medal in World Championships. And no Nordic skier in the U.S. has ever won a gold medal in either World Championships or Olympics until 2003 and 2010, respectively. So anyways, the point of that is that we had like a lot to overcome in terms of like mentally, it's always harder to be the first person to do it, the first team. And for us as a team, I think it was like essential that we had a good relationship with our team. And it doesn't mean that you're best friends every day. In fact, on our team, I'd say we're more brotherly. Like you'll be best friends some days, but you'll also like be in a fist fight other days. But it's like kind of having that love for each other, not necessarily the like all the time, but in the long term, the love. And And so the product of that was buying into this team aspect where we believed that training together was the best thing that we could do for each other and ourselves. And that meant that as long as, the point of that was that we showed up and we pushed each other every single day, and the result was that as long as somebody was always jumping ahead of the group, because we were pushing each other so hard, that we were trying to chase them down and everybody's trying to get better, but as long as somebody was jumping out ahead, the group got better because we'd always chase that person. And the same thing happened with results, in that you could have a horrible season or sit out with an injury, but if the team hit a best ever mark, that became your result too. And that allowed us to sort of overcome personal setbacks and obstacles and sort of like grow the results as a team over a long period of time. So I think it was essential to have a really good working relationship with our teammates.
When did you start skating?
I was 5, I think. Like I raced out of Vancouver, I think I was 5.
When did you start ski jumping?
I think it's 8 or 9. And I was not good at ski jumping as a kid. Who in this room remembers me being like infamously bad at ski jumping? I came off like this. I thought I was like over my skis because my chin was in front of my feet. Mikhail is the 6-year-old back to me.
Yeah.